Fellowship family, to this week's episode of the Deeper Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Doug Congdon. I am here with my usual co-host, Brian Paul Trias, and special guest this week, my lovely wife, Leigh. I do know her middle name, Whitney Congdon. Mm-hmm. Hi, Leigh.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I normally don't say your name. It feels weird to say Leigh.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Instead
Surprised you didn't just say babe.
Babe.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably say babe at some point on this podcast, which is a little bit strange, but that's all right. I do think it's a great way to start the pod, is starting off fast with our quick question of the day. QQOTD. So today it's a little bit different from normal, but I think it's important for our listeners to know, what is your favorite physical attribute in your spouse? Just kidding. Don't do that. Brian, what do you think Betsy would feel if she had you answer that question on the pod?
She does not like me speaking on her behalf, so I'm just going to take the no comment.
Okay, and if you were to comment on that answer for her, would she hit you when you got home? Or?
Well, one, I don't think she would hear it.
Wow. Okay, so Bet's not a listener here.
I don't think so. I don't think she listens to any podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's a podcast-free zone.
Okay, real quick question of the day here. We are entering Abraham and Sarah territory. That's our story for the next 2 weeks. They both get new names. Abram to Abraham, Sarai to Sarah. If God was going to give you a new name.
Oh my goodness gracious.
New name would you choose?
Isn't he going to?
I don't know.
Are we getting a new name?
Are we getting new names? No.
A new name that's known only to us or something like that?
Is that in the Bible?
That's in the Revelation piece. It's like name written on his thigh or hand or something. Wait, really? We're giving a new one now.
Listen, we're gonna
now you're
flip over to Revelation
as
here.
Frauds for not knowing the answer.
That's okay.
I love that you're gonna pretend to leaf through all of Revelation right now to find this. This is what Google was made for.
Yeah, but I don't have Google in front of me.
You don't have your phone?
Oh.
It's a phone-free zone for Brian. I'm so proud of you guys.
I never have my phone on the table for this.
No, I didn't say on the table. It's in your pocket. Okay.
It is in my pocket.
Babe, while Brian is pretending to read all of Revelation in the next 10 seconds.
You're really going to make me answer this question? I have to randomly think of a name that I want to be called.
Yeah, but also, there's probably a name that's deep inside of you that you've always wanted to be called.
Babe.
Boo, that's the name of a pig, if it's your actual name. So,
do you have an answer to this question?
Of course I do.
What is it?
I'm going to think of it.
Yeah. Think fast.
Yeah.
Brian, I think Brian's avoiding answering the question by skirting to Revelation over here.
I think he's probably got some good answers, and they're all Texas football players.
I mean, my first thought was Vince Young, to be very honest with you.
Combined into one first name, Vince Young.
Vince Young, VY.
Vince Young Trias.
VY. I've never thought about it. My actual first thought was, how could I add the AH into Brian?
Brian. That's true, because it is the AH. That's obviously for both of them. And why is that, Brian, for our listeners?
Because that's what he added to Abraham and to Sarah.
No, but what does it mean? Why did he add an AH there?
I don't remember why.
Anyway, because in Hebrew, the AH endings of all those, like the Nehemiah, and they're all the shortened form of Yahweh there. So it's like the Lord or Yahweh is part of their name now. Mm-hmm.
So Leah.
Which people call you all the time.
They do.
Anyway.
They do.
People look at Lee's name when we're out and she's ordered something at Starbucks and they...
Which it's spelled Leigh, for those who don't know.
They're just lost.
Now,
you can see them
Leigh.
processing.
I can see Leigh.
Leigh, Leah, League. I've gotten a couple times. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Slay.
Joe used to call me Brion.
Oh.
Like French. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably from the Brian Regan skit, though.
He did love Brian Regan.
Did you find it?
No.
Oh, okay. Wow, what a shock that didn't work. I really held out hopes. My name, of course, would be Deontay.
Oh.
It's a great name, and I love it. So
it was also the name of a Steelers player who couldn't catch the ball. So
last name?
Deontay Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Not great.
Yep.
I wouldn't spell it that way. Anyway, that's not important. Guys, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't have really solid answers on that one. I thought maybe it would be a way to open up the floodgates, if you've always been wanted to call a different name, but it's just not true.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Great. We are in week 5 of The Greatest Story. We have a guest here who is going to do the same thing that all of our other guests have done, and that is we are doing this series with the goal to equip our people to be able to kind of quickly tell the story of the Bible or pick out stories in the Bible to relate to people or use in conversation. So we're going to have you retell the story up to this point. So you're just covering basically
up to this point
here to Abraham. And I'm going to say you can leave out Job as part of that because it's tough to fit him into the chronology of it. So starting at Genesis 1, kind of like, and the way that I'm judging how good these are.
Oh my goodness, you're not judging.
In my head, and would never share out loud with the person that we've invited to do this.
But you will share with me.
Is like basically the speed. Like if you're in a conversation with somebody who doesn't know the Bible well and you're trying to recap the Bible and you just go on and on about the details and that person's bored to tears, like they're not listening to you. Yeah. So it needs to be succinct enough to keep their attention, but like riveting enough that it's like, this is the true story. This is the greatest story ever. It is. And I'm only telling you, I've never told any other guest this. I know that you can handle the pressure.
Thank you.
So I'm giving it to you. So yeah, go for it.
All right. Story up to this point in Genesis 12.
Yep.
It starts with creation. God creates the world. That's what happens in the beginning. And then sin enters the Garden of Eden through the form of Satan, tempting Eve with an apple or a fruit from the tree of life. And everything breaks. Relationship with God breaks. The beauty of creation, the goodness of creation breaks. And Adam and Eve, humanity, is banned from God's presence, from the garden. They're aware of their sin, aware of their shame. And fast forward, they leave, they have some kids. I mean, how much do you want me to tell? Cain and Abel happens, and that's kind of an intense thing. And then the whole earth fills, and it's evil all the time because there's no God and there's no good because everything's broken by sin. So then God's like, man, this is not what I wanted. I wanted this beautiful relationship with my children, and they are ignoring me and choosing evil, and that is leading to their detriment. So I'm going to wipe out humanity with a flood, save Noah. So he saves Noah with the ark and his family, and then that starts over, right? So then they start filling the earth, and then the Tower of Babel happens. Good. And that pretty much brings us to where we are at in Genesis 12.
It absolutely does. Do you want to include this week's in it?
Do you want me to? Am I supposed to?
I don't. Yeah, good call. Okay. Don't. Yeah. I thought about it and I was like, it'd be good, but then again, people who are listening to this have just heard the sermon or have listened to the sermon already, probably.
Right.
So
and it wasn't riveting, so I shouldn't keep going, right?
Oh, I thought you just said the sermon wasn't riveting.
No, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. My retelling of the story. Well, you used the word riveting, but it has to be fast, but not too fast, and detailed, but not too detailed. Woo.
Love it. You did a great job.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. I needed that affirmation.
Okay, so we are entering the week of the patriarchs here. I mean, not the week of the patriarchs. We're entering this week the story of the patriarchs. And just curious, do you guys count Joseph as a patriarch or not?
I don't usually.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I bet.
Brian?
Feel free to disagree.
No, only because he's not in the line of Jesus, but he is definitely one of the main cogs in the book of Genesis.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, cool. Great answer. So we got Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the 3 patriarchs here that we're talking about. And we start in Genesis 12. The story leading up to 11 kind of takes a very hard shift here in God's approach to his people in general, and kind of salvation history begins anew at this point. And so the great thing, the thing that we're going to focus on this weekend is faith, this idea of Abraham living and acting by faith. And so Joe's definition of faith that he uses in the daily devotion this week is trusting God's promises even when the details are unclear and feel uncertain. So trusting God's promises even when the details are unclear and feel uncertain. So let me just start. General question to you guys. What is a time in your life that you feel like God has led you or called you into something but the details of what it's going to look like have been foggy or unclear or uncertain.
I mean, I would say the biggest moment was I wanted to stay in Dallas for a job. I went to the place that I was working. I had a plan of how I could stay there, how they could pay me, what I could do full time. And my boss was like, nope, you're going to go somewhere else. And so that began the process of searching. And that just felt things that I thought were coming, they didn't come. And we eventually interviewed in Topeka. And this was a place, like Joe is going to share, where we had no family, no relationships, no knowledge of where we were going, and really just a couple of conversations with some staff up here. And so this felt like we were coming to the great unknown. But we very much felt like this was clearly where God wanted us to be. So.
That's great. What, if you don't mind me following up there, what about the situation, interview, or specific church we're talking about here made you feel like this is where God is calling us? Like there's a surety here that this is what he wants us to do.
Yeah, I would say in the interview process, there wasn't any red flags. Enjoyed the conversation with Joe and the elders. I just remember being in Walmart over on Wanamaker and being like, yeah, I think this is it. Like I don't know why. I really think this is the next step of our adventure. And so I mean, I haven't really heard this story much, honestly, much of this story before, but can you just flesh out why in the world was it Walmart that you had the realization? Well, I mean, we were staying at 21st and Wanamaker at that place in the Chili's parking lot, that hotel there.
Oh, really? Cool.
That's where we were staying. Huh. And so like we obviously don't know where to go anywhere. So we needed some stuff. So we went to Walmart. As we were walking through Walmart, it just felt like,
gosh, I have a new and deep appreciation.
Sometimes when you're in Walmart, you just know.
No, there wasn't anything.
This is the place.
Nothing happened in Walmart. That it just was like, we just really were like, I think this is what God has for us.
And Betsy was on the same page.
Big time. Yeah. Okay. That's great. What about you, babe?
There it is.
Yeah, there are several moments that come to mind that have kind of been that, like where the future feels unknown. The details feel unclear, but you know God's calling you. I think one of the first ones that came to mind is in my summer after my junior year of college, when the Lord impressed upon my heart to change my major from nursing to Bible and theology. And I felt a certainty that ministry was what he was wanting me to pursue with my life. But I had no idea what that was going to look like. I didn't have any vision for what kind of ministry or what role that would lead to. But I changed my major before my senior year of college. And
Great.
What about you?
Well, I was thinking about having you on the pod this week as these are the questions. I didn't know if you were going to talk about it or I was going to talk about it. Yeah. So I will?
Yeah, great.
Okay,
I would talk about it too, but.
Great.
Yeah.
So marrying Leigh, no, I'm just kidding. That's not it. The journey into foster care has involved so many decisions of unknownness to us. So saying yes to a kid with a very uncertain time frame, you could have him for 2 weeks, you could have him for 2 years or 3. And you don't know what the process of working with the parents is going to be like, or the court system is going to be like, or how in depth the process you are going to be involved in.
Yeah.
And
or what issues the kid is going to have from trauma. And,
You're saying yes to a whole bunch of unknowns. And I think for the most part, especially me, I'm sure this is true of a lot of people, I love to have all of the details or factors in making a decision known before I do it, so I can weigh the pros and cons and maybe make a list. But definitely at least sit there and emotionally feel the ramifications of what's going to happen, and to just go into that and be like, this could be a train wreck for months or years of our life, but we're going to say yes to it. That's definitely been the biggest, I think, way I've seen faith show up in our life too.
For sure.
So, okay. How is it? Those are the big ones, right? So how do you see this trickling down into a daily action? And so I'll give you a second to think while I kind of describe this. So I think sometimes when we talk about the word faith specifically, there is a way that we can confuse faith as a general static thing, like the faith of Christianity. Faith is kind of a unmoving, unchanging object, right? And then there's my faith, and my faith can fluctuate day to day, whereas Christianity doesn't fluctuate at all. So when we look at Abraham's story, and I don't think we're not quite sure what Joe's going to be able to include or not in his time frame, but we do see a lot of moments of faith, extreme, incredible faith, and then moments where you look at him and you're like, what an idiot. Like, how do you not trust God? So fear. We'll call it fear here. So when you think about it that way, and you think about Joe asked the question, where's your faith right now? You think, okay, my faith can fluctuate on a daily basis even. So what are the ways every day in which I am choosing to trust God, surrender to God? And then what are the ways in which maybe I'm trying to take control, do it my own way? Despite saying, yeah, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, you're still doing it your own way. So what are some of those ways that are not the big, life-changing, moving, major-changing ways, but the small ways that you're experiencing faith or questions of faith on a daily basis? What's that look like? Did I not give you enough time? Get in there, B.
Great.
I would say that, especially with what we do on a daily basis, there's always a load of opportunities to say yes to things. And there are things that are easy to say yes to. Like when someone's like, can you come teach a whatever? Like that's, yeah, sure. There's no fear whatsoever in that. But when it's like, hey, there's an uncomfortable situation going on. There's someone that needs a visit in the hospital, or there's someone who is going through a really tough circumstance, and you're like, oh, wow, that's probably not a one-time appointment. That's probably multiple. There's times that it's like, okay, I really feel like I need to say yes to this. And you do it, and that's I think that's one of those little micro moments of faith where you're trusting that God will give me what I need to take care of this. And I also know there's absolutely times where I've been like, yeah, that sounds like something Doug should do, and you pass it on, and you pass the opportunity to experience God's blessing in that. And I don't know if it feels the same as like when Abraham and Sarah go to Egypt in the same way, but I still think there's a little bit of disobedience in there. There's a little bit of not trusting that God will provide what is needed in that, or a little bit of selfishness. I don't really want to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
Now, there's probably times where I actually don't have the time to do something.
Sure,
right. I'm not the best person for it, but there's probably times that I was good enough and I still just didn't want to. Yeah.
And just clarifying, when you say you feel like you should do it for those situations you get invited into, you're not saying you feel like you should do it because you have necessarily a sense of obligation or duty, but you feel like there's something inside of your heart or your spirit that's like, okay, I can and should probably do this. Again, kind of thinking about the God's call versus your job description.
Yeah, not job description focused, but more along the lines of, when in the Gospels, when someone approaches Jesus just makes the time for it. And I think there's a lot of times where I probably have the time, but I'm also just not comfortable. Yeah.
I think my desire there is to talk about the transferability to somebody who's not in ministry. Obviously, they're going to have these feelings at times where they either, if the neighbor or a friendship or a family, where they're like, man, I feel like I should do X, Y, and Z. It's obviously not in their job description, but that's probably often the Spirit leading them to say, yeah, you should reach out, you should make the meal, you should have the conversation. But the excuses that we can come up with because we're afraid to do it is.
Yeah. Like I'm not implying that this only happens during work hours. Like, when you are interacting with people in every sphere of life, there's always a tragedy. There's always a crisis. There's always something going on. There's always something that you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that question feels tough because faith can literally influence every single part of your life. So when I think about that, it gets even when I wake up in the morning and it's 5 a.m. and I'm like, I have a choice right now where I could go back to sleep, or I can have I can lean into my faith that tells me that time with the Lord is actually going to be more beneficial to me than sleep today. And it's starting every day with, you get to make the choice. Are you choosing time with the Lord, or your to-do list, or your email, or your phone, or more sleep, or whatever it is?
I love that. So your faith, and what you're putting your faith in there, like you said, is I'm believing God's promises that time with him is more valuable in the long run than any of those temporary pleasures or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's an
that
act of
legit
faith.
Thought goes through my head when I get out of bed most mornings.
It's an act of faith. Like, I believe that this is worth. I believe that God's true when he says it's worth it.
I think so. And that has been built by discipline and then experiencing the blessing of it, right?
Yeah.
You experience it and you're like, oh, I have lived this enough to see that it's true. So. So then, I mean, that's like step one. And then it literally bleeds into everything you do. It can be influenced by, do I believe that God is who he says he is? Am I making a decision based on an eternal mindset, a faith-filled mindset, or a selfish, fearful mindset? I mean,
what are some of those decisions that you think about? Am I making this decision from a faith-filled or a fear-filled mindset?
I'm trying to think about like day-to-day decisions and not just the big things. So even in like how I parent my children, how we parent our children.
Okay, everybody knows. This is basically you. Yeah.
No, that's
I'm just
not
along
true.
for the ride.
Like when we're on the way to school, it's not always choosing to like enter into time with the Lord. The examples I'm thinking of, like when we're on the way to school, we pray every morning on the way to school because I want to instill in them a belief that starting our day by turning to the Lord is the best place we can set our eyes. And he really does listen to prayer and respond to it. And so that is leaning into faith versus a lot of times I'm thinking, and as we're driving to school, about all the things I need to do that day, or do my kids have their homework done, and did I get everything that they need? And that's not a fearful mindset. That's just a life mindset. But I could
some
choose.
Of that's fear because it's control. Where like if I don't finish all this stuff, or I don't get my to-do list done, or all that stuff. So there's maybe some underlying fear to that.
Yeah. And then you go into like, when I sin, I sin every day, right? Like I'm sinning against people all the time, and I feel conviction often. And so I can, in faith, apologize and repent to the Lord, or I can cast blame and justify myself. And like even the conversations I have in my head can either be faith-filled or fear-filled, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what you're looking for? I don't know if that's even...
It is, yeah. I think I'm looking to explore those kinds of decisions that you brought up. What decisions do we think through or make? Unconsciously, subconsciously, probably, on a daily basis that direct us towards faith or fear? Because I do kind of feel like we've talked about this with different verbiage, but every decision that you make can, this is overstated, can kind of like lead you in one of those two directions. Now, your decision of what to eat for dinner tonight is probably not, it doesn't get included in that. But so I was just thinking, I was in a discipleship conversation the other day, and we were talking about confession and the things that we normally think about when we're confessing our sins to God are obvious things, whether it's bad words that we've said to people that are hurtful or thoughts that we've had. And I was sharing with them that over time, part of our rhythm at night is to pray through the Acts prayer with our kids. So when we get to confession night, for a long time, it was me thinking and trying to think through, right, my day and find those obvious sins. And then after a while, it became so abundantly obvious to me that the majority of my sin throughout the day was doing things on my own without any regard for God in them. So without a sense of surrendering or prayer, or I need you in this. I can't do it on my own, especially in ministry. It feels so just kind of like subtly wicked to be doing ministry out of your own power. And so my confession moved a lot more frequently to like, God, I'm sorry that today I did not surrender the decisions I was making, the things that I did to you, but I just kind of like went on autopilot and kind of like functioned like I could do all this on my own. Because it's like kind of a default mindset of like, yeah, I mean, I'll turn to God if I really need him, but I got everything else. So I was trying to think about what are those decisions that we make subconsciously, unconsciously, from a place of control, which can be a reaction to fear. So we're doing, one of the decisions we made recently was to go on this mission trip. We're going to go on as a family in a couple weeks to Honduras, which was great. But I'm just remembering, okay, a decision like that brings with it certain amounts of fear, whether it's a financial fear, taking the kids out of school, having a foster care kid that we're having to hand off for a week for respite, and then preparing and planning and all that stuff that we're doing. So I'm thinking that was a decision that we made recently that like felt like it was out of faith and not out of fear, because out of fear I think we would have been like, yeah, there'll be another time or a better time.
There's always reasons to not do the thing that you feel like God is moving you to do.
Yeah. So again, I'm just trying to help people as they're listening to this think through what are some of those decisions that you're making every day that you can make out of faith, but
I think like decisions in rhythms of life. So even just thinking about giving in general, tithing or giving outside of the church as well, like the practice of giving is an act of faith over fear. And that's something you can like choose to enter into consistently, and not just, I mean, sometimes it's when the opportunity arises, but you can also choose to enter into it. Specifically, Joe did not tell me to say that. That's just something that came to mind as an act of faith we can continually make in our lives.
I think giving is such a good one, though, because the idea of faith is always comes with the idea of unknown, entering something that's unknown. And money, if you're giving enough money away that you like, I literally don't know where it's going to come from for us to like be able to live life normally. But it's in a lot of other ways in America, it's hard to make decisions and be like, I have no idea what's going to happen because I made this decision. Like generally you're going to know a lot of the outcomes of it. Okay. I talked way more than normal there, and Brian has said very little of his usual wisdom. So Brian, we're going to talk about the key takeaways that Joe talked about for his sermon. I'll read through all three of them. You choose the one that you feel like you like the best. Which would you choose? First of all, faith is taking God at his word and acting on it. Second, when God calls you away from something, he also calls you into something else. And the person of Jesus fulfilled the promise to Abraham. So of those takeaways that he focused on, which one kind of hit you the most and why?
I'm going to guess you're going to want to do number 3. So I'm going to take number 2. The way I have said this like through the years is like where God guides, he provides. And I just think we see that in the story of Abraham. Not to step on next week, but like,
gosh, you're going to get into next week.
Okay. What God has said he would do, he was faithful and he did. And even when in like, is it chapter 12? Yeah. When he goes to Egypt with Sarah and he makes the decision that we say is like not a great decision.
Yeah.
The story still ends with, him getting stuff.
Yeah, so like verse 16 there.
Yeah. And for her sake, he dealt well with Abraham, and he had sheep, oxen, and male donkeys, and male servants, and female servants, and female. Well, I can't just say male servants and donkeys. But he makes a decision that's not based on faith, and yet God still blesses him through it, as if to say, my blessing for you is not contingent on your performance. And so when God is saying, I'm going to do this, where he is leading you down that path, he's going to provide what you need to survive. And sometimes we have great faith moments where we take him at his word, and we do that. And sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes we give our sister/wife to Pharaoh.
And it did. I mean, I underline this every time I get to it with an exclamation mark, because, and maybe this is a little previewing what we're going to talk about later, but it feels wrong for God to bless him for doing, I mean, he did something wrong, and then God still gave him all the stuff, and Pharaoh said, get out of here. And so he gets to keep all that stuff. And it's like, man, that doesn't feel like that's how it should work. That's not.
Yeah, just wait till we get to Jacob and Esau.
It's not fair, per se, which we talked about with Job.
It's interesting. I mean, it's like the opposite of Job, right?
Yeah.
Where Job did all the right things, and it just goes to show the reality of life on this earth.
Yeah.
That you don't earn. You don't earn the good or the bad. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away, and he is faithful and just and good, and we have to trust who he is regardless of.
Okay, so we're going to do it now, because I was
What
saying
are
I'm
we
going to look
doing?
for a segue.
Sorry.
But no, don't apologize. That was perfect. So we got a reader email this week that I wanted to give a shout out to.
Oh.
It is Leah Scott.
Leah, she has my would-be name, but also she's a
That's a great point.
she's also a wonderful woman of the Lord who I love so much.
Yes. Okay. So, listener email from Dayton, Ohio. So that's just really expanding our geographic reach there. Really appreciate
Go
that.
Scots.
But she was talking about our pod last week on Job, and we talked in general about how Job is a tough book and part of the story to use with people who don't know Jesus. It's really tough theologically, and just also doesn't make people feel good at times. But she talked about it. You can use it when you are dealing with somebody who believes in karma, and a lot of karma. So if they're struggling with a situation like she mentioned, like a miscarriage, and you're sitting with that person who believes that she had a miscarriage because of sin or a past act that she or her husband or somebody did, then your perspective can be kind of come from a Job type perspective, which is exactly what you're saying. Like, this is what it looks like to live on this earth. It is not God is not a, how did you just say it? Let me stop talking so that you repeat what you said. But basically, this is what it looks.
We don't earn the good or the bad.
Yeah. God is, and you said God is still just.
He is just. He is good. He is.
Yeah.
I don't remember what else I said.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's great. So anyway, that was perfect. But thank you, Leah, for that email too. And it was a nice way of being like, oh, you can use Job in this specific situation with a non-believer. So, wanted to give that shout out. So pick us up where we just were, because I took us off target there.
She needs to pick her number 3.
Yeah, that's right. So that was your number 2. God provides. Yep. And which one of those 3 points, babe, stuck out to you the most, or did you like the most?
Well, I feel like Brian already pigeonholed me.
They don't know what number 3 is. You got to tell them what number 3 is.
Well, you said it right.
I did read them. Yeah,
The person
Brian,
of Jesus
Brian zoned out.
is fulfilled in the promise to Abraham. So, I mean, this is the beautiful thing about reading the Old Testament, right? Is that when you see not only the character of God on display in the Old Testament and realize that he's the same God today, and the same God who provided Christ, and his plan from the start was always to provide Christ as the payment for our sin. And you start to see how the Lord is foreshadowing the salvation that's coming, and the fact that he keeps his promises regardless of our actions, and the fact that it is by faith that we are saved, faith in God, not faith in ourselves. Like, all of that is in the story of Abraham, and it's all foundational truths of the gospel, which is our salvation in Christ. So, I mean, you really could go into a lot more detail on how you see Jesus in the story of Abraham. But if you're looking for it, you'll find it. And it's a beautiful and encouraging aspect of reading the Old Testament, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Spitball with me. We like to do strategic vision talk here about how can we use this story to be intentional at home or available in the world. So when you think about how can we live with faith or show our faith intentionally in our home or be available to show it off on our world, what are some ways in which you think that could look like for a Topeka or Ohioan in the 21st century here?
We were talking to Amy Weatherford before this a little bit, and her perspective on what it means to walk by faith is really like, do we know the Word of God and are we living it out? Like, that is walking by faith, is knowing his word, knowing him, and living as if we actually believe what this says, and believe that if we live the way that this calls us to live, that is going to lead to the greatest blessing, not materially, but spiritually. And I have to come back to your question. So how do we show our faith to our families and to the world? I mean, it's just such a basic answer, right? Like it's not by trying to live a better Christian life. It's by seeking to know the Lord and walk in his ways. And when you're doing that, like I can't read the book of Matthew or 1 John and read about the call to deny myself and take up my cross, to follow Jesus and to love my brother, to love my enemy, to pray for those who persecute me, and not at least pray that the Lord would give me the heart to live that out, right? In my flesh, I can't live that out well. But the Lord is sanctifying me little by little as I seek him. And I can't instruct my children to live selfishly or in fear or with a temporary mindset if I'm reading about our home in heaven. Mm-hmm. I can't give in to the temptation to question God's goodness because I'm literally reading the proof of his goodness all the time if I'm in the word and walking in faith. It's not saying I'm doing that all the time, but that's how we live it intentionally at home and in the world. How's that for your answer?
That's great. I mean, that is the foundation for all other answers. But it's like, that is the truth. It's truth. And it's,
sorry.
No, that's great. That's great. I mean, I
you
could
want
go,
to give a
Brian,
more concrete answer to that question?
It's the same version of the Noah story. Right? It's God asking a man to do something or a woman to do something that they do not fully understand. They do not understand all the repercussions, and they said yes. And sometimes you're going to get asked, why do you live the way you do? Or why'd you make this decision? And this doesn't make sense. Why would you give your brother-in-law or your uncle? Who's Lot?
Nephew. Yeah.
Why would you let him choose the good land?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh, that's such a good pull from the story.
You know, it's like, God's given me the land, and we're going to go here, we're going to go there. We're not going to fight about it. And why do you behave the way you do? Well, I trust in who God is and what he said to do. So I'm just taking him at his word and doing it. So it's
so good.
It's just simple.
That decision.
I know, when he gives answers sometimes, you're like, the Lot decision?
Yeah, well, yes, that Brian pulled that out in the answer. It was such a better answer than my answer. But that is something that we're faced with all the time. Do I choose the thing that gives me comfort and security? Or do I choose the thing that's actually going to bless someone else and leave me kind of maybe a little bit without? And how often do we have that decision every day? You know?
Yikes.
Yeah, and I think about the Peter passage where he talks about like they're going to revile you when you don't do the things. Like when you choose to not live the lifestyle, and people could be like, why are you doing it? And it's not like I'm better than you. It's just like I can't. Like I think God has called me to live this way, so I'm going to do that. And I think eventually it's attractive, but initially it's very
off-putting.
Put off,
yeah, for sure. No, I liked the Noah poll because that was also my thought. My thought is, in what way is faith going to make you look weird to the world? Yeah. And how can you just own that? And I do think especially if you're leading your family in a faith-filled way, your family's going to look weird in to the families of the world. And so we have to have conversations, once in a while about why we don't do stuff. And it's fine that they do, in the sense of we're not going to do whatever everybody else does. We're gonna look different.
And it can be hard on our kids.
Yeah, for sure.
And we now are in this situation where we take God at his word. We don't know how it's going to turn out. But like Noah and Abraham, like, they can look back and be like, yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it to build the ark. It was worth it to lead my family, because maybe I wouldn't do the Egypt story again. but yeah, that, like, it's been proven true. And so now we're having that same mindset that we're going to be proven true.
Yeah.
Or God will be proven true.
Yeah.
When we make those decisions.
Good stuff. All right, let's move to our final segment here, the cutting room floor. All the stuff that we love. Are you going to make the noise? I
can't
some,
do noises.
I got some grief for the scissor noise that I made. Yes. Babe, would you do just into the microphone real quick? Because we're looking for a potential like drop here. So what sound would you say a scissor makes as it's cutting something?
I think that was better than Doug's.
Yeah, it was definitely better than me. Liam,
what was yours?
I can't reproduce it now. Yeah, I got to go listen back to it. Anyway, cutting room floor, what's the stuff that we loved in this section of the Bible that we're covering that's not going to get covered in the sermon? So I will start, because you told me I could. And
should.
One of the most interesting parts of this section is Lot gets captured, and Abraham marshals his household and goes and like fights and kills the kings and rescues Lot and comes back. And as he's on his way back, he's passing by the city of Salem, and how is he described here? King of Salem, Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine, and it says he was the priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abraham. And it says in verse 20 of chapter 14 that Abram gave him a tenth of everything. So all of the spoils of war that he had just taken, he gave a tenth of all of it to this guy who is called the king of Salem and the priest of the God Most High. Now, this is it. This is the whole story of Melchizedek. And then suddenly in Hebrews, he is like this huge deal, like an archetype of person who is a priest and a king. This picture of a priest king. And you look back and you're like, we know nothing at all about this guy. And is this, as they say, is this the first ever tithe that was given? Because it's Abraham giving a tenth of all of this to Melchizedek. What do you do with that? What are you pointing to?
Well, I mean, 7:3, Hebrews 7:3 says, he is without father or mother or genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but resembling the Son of God, he continues a priest forever.
I mean,
I have so many questions.
So many questions. Again, there is obviously a tradition that was built around this Melchizedek character in Judaism, and we just don't know any of it, and it seems to come from such a small portion of the text. So I'm always fascinated when I get to this Melchizedek part, and I always read the ESV study Bible notes about whether or not this counts as the first tithe, and is it a tithe to God himself, because Melchizedek is this like Christ figure.
And was Melchizedek actually an appearing of Jesus?
Christophany.
Yeah.
But he's compared to him.
Yeah.
That's what, makes
resembling.
my brain hurt.
But also Salem is peace, right? And so he's the king of peace, or the prince of peace.
Hey-o.
Wait, that's not Salem, Massachusetts? This isn't the first thing of the United States. Oh, wait.
The witch trials?
Wait a second.
No, different. So anyway, that's always one that sticks out to me. What about you guys in this section? Brian, you loved, and I don't think Joe's going to get into 15. I'm not sure. He might. But why don't you talk about 15? And we really haven't talked about the fact that the word covenant is used here and is such a big... it's something we talk about all the time in the church, and I do all the time at weddings, talking about covenant and what it looks like. So
Abrahamic covenant here. It's he's promised him land, he's promised him children as numerous as the sand on the seashore. Generally, we say that seed is like the short word. Blessing, he's going to bless all nations through him. And then I was always taught the word forever in there too, that it's going to be lasting for all time. So land, seed, blessing forever.
Were you taught that way?
The word forever wasn't a part of it, but it makes sense.
It does.
It says forever a ton of times in there, but that's how it's the three things, and then they're all forever. And so as you're going through the rest of it, you keep seeing how that promise takes shape, like the children and back to the land and the blessing that comes regardless. But then you get to chapter 15 and he restates the covenant. So you have it kind of loosely in chapter 12, and then 15, everything is there in it. And then God causes Abraham to fall asleep, and there's a bull that's cut in two. And so the picture is that when they would make a covenant, I think is this the covenant of Grant, or is the one person covenant? I think that's it. But the way the covenant works is you and I are going to say we're going to keep our promises, and if we don't, may what happened to this bull happen to us. And then both people would walk through it as like a physical, like I'm taking this on, you're taking this on, and we're going to have this blood covenant. Yeah, God causes Abraham to fall asleep, and then the presence of the Lord goes through. It's a one-sided covenant. And so the Lord is the one who is losing on both accounts. Like he's the one who's giving land, seed, and blessing to Abraham. And so he is covenanting himself to giving that, but he's also the only one who's putting himself on the hook for the faithfulness of the covenant. And so it is just this beautiful picture that God is going to establish this covenant. He's going to be faithful to his covenant regardless of the human behavior. And that is just not the way we generally look at these things. It's like, if you do this, then I'll do this. And God's like, no, I'm going to do this because you guys are terrible. But he loves us anyway.
Gosh.
And it's another picture of saying, I will be the one to shed blood when this covenant is broken.
Yep.
And he is.
Yeah, and that reminded me too, because doesn't he tells them ahead of time, like, oh yeah, there we go. Know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, afflicted for 400 years, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Egypt.
Yeah, he's saying, way ahead of time that they're going to be, and he doesn't necessarily say, I guess, in that they're going to be punished because their bad behavior, but that is kind of rolled into the blessing curse piece of it.
Yeah, well, and I just want to point out too, because I think this is throughout scripture, right? And it's just in our minds that like we think of blessing as like things being easy and everything being good, but God is promising blessing that is so far beyond like what we experience on this earth as good or bad, right? Like sometimes Abraham's going to get, like the people of Israel are going to get all the things in the land flowing with milk and honey. And sometimes they're going to be slaves in Egypt. And sometimes they're going to be in exile. And, it's really not about what we're experiencing on this earth, because this earth is not our home. There is a better city waiting for us. There is a bigger blessing waiting for us in eternity. And you kind of see that at work here, before they knew about Jesus.
Yeah, especially because the seed and the blessing end up being Jesus.
You're right. Right.
Like that ends up being the true blessing that we're going to receive, and he ends up being the child of the promise.
Yeah, that was really well said.
Many years later.
But very succinctly. He is the seed and the blessing.
He's not the land, though.
Yeah, I know. That's and I also think of the seed, obviously, as also the millions of actual Jews, but he is the capital TH.
And in the
seed.
New Testament, the believers that have been grafted in.
Right.
So anyone who calls on the name.
Cool. Anything else you guys want to point out before we close? Yep. Next week we get into the fun stuff about Isaac, probably Ishmael. I went down a rabbit hole today and researching this about like Islam, Judaism, Christianity, right? They all have their foundation in Abraham. Abraham is like the founding patriarch of all three of those, and kind of comparing their views of Abraham and also the stories that they tell about Abraham, because they're pretty different at times. And so maybe I'll share some of that next week, but it was a long rabbit hole that I went down.
Chapter 22, man.
Chapter 22. I don't know what he's talking about, but we'll talk about it next week. Leigh, why don't you close the pod? Why don't you pray for the people who are listening? Community groups are going to be talking about this, and everybody who comes on the weekend.
Okay. Well, God, we thank you that you've given us your word, that we get to read about who you are and see your faithfulness throughout the generations, Lord. Thank you for this church and the fact that you give us family in you that we get to process with and pray with and learn with and grow with. I do pray for community groups as they talk about Abraham's life and who you are and what your word teaches us. God, I pray that those would be fruitful conversations, that you would just shed light on your character and on the areas of our lives that we are not walking in faith. God, I pray that you would deepen the faith of the believers at FBC. Lord, the people who are following you, seeking you, hearing your word. God, may we live as people who believe what it says. Keep growing that faith in us, Lord. Faith is a gift from you, and so we ask for it. We want it. We want more of it. We commit this church to you and this message to you and the fruit that comes from it. May it serve to your glory. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, babe, for being on the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Brian, as always.
Good times.
Thank you, Fellowship family, for listening to this week's episode of the Deeper Podcast. We'll catch you all next time.